A king is told he has just 7 days to live. 7 days. His response? No fear, no denial, just gratitude. This is the greatest blessing of my life. 5,000 years later, neuroscience finally caught up and explains why that mindset changes everything. And if you're watching this with your phone in one hand, your mind in 3 places, and scrolling while this plays in the background, this story is specifically for you. The Mahabharata war had ended, the bloodiest war in history. Millions dead, kingdoms destroyed. The Pandavas, the righteous brothers, had won. But victory came at a cost, and in the aftermath, darkness struck one final time. A warrior named Ashwatthama, son of a great master, now consumed by vengeance, unleashed a weapon that had never been used before. A cosmic weapon, the kind that could end entire civilizations. But he didn't aim it at soldiers. He aimed it at a womb. The pregnant queen Uttara carried the last heir of the Pandava dynasty. An unborn child, defenseless. And this weapon, this celestial fire, was hunting that tiny life. Uttara screamed as the energy chased her. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The embryo was seconds from destruction. And then, Lord Krishna did something no human eye had ever witnessed. He entered her womb. Imagine that, God himself shielding a microscopic embryo with his own divine body. The fire struck. Krishna absorbed it. The child survived. They named him Parikshit, the tested one, the boy who was protected by God before he even took his first breath. Remember that. It's important. Years passed. Krishna, the same Krishna who saved Parikshit, left this world. And with him gone, the Pandava brothers felt empty. What's the point of ruling when the one being who gave everything meaning is gone? So they did something extraordinary. They crowned young Parikshit emperor of the entire world, and they walked into the mountains seeking their final liberation. Parikshit was now the most powerful human alive, and under his reign, peace flowed like honey. Justice was perfect. The kingdom prospered. No one suffered. But there was something Parikshit couldn't forget. That glimpse. In the womb, before memory, before thought, he had seen a radiant being protecting him. And in every face he met, in every crowd, his eyes kept searching for Krishna. But the golden age was ending. One could feel it. Sacred fires that had burned for centuries started dimming. Darkness was stirring. One day, near the sacred river, Parikshit witnessed something that made his blood boil. A man, dressed like royalty, was brutally beating a cow and a bull. The cow was crying. The bull stood trembling on one leg. 3 of his legs had been broken. Who dares harm the innocent? Parikshit thundered, his hand on his sword. But this wasn't just any bull. This was Dharma himself, righteousness personified, appearing in animal form. In the golden age, he stood on 4 legs: truth, purity, compassion, austerity. Now, only truth remained. The other 3 shattered. And the attacker, Kali, not the goddess, the demon, the very spirit of the dark age, the embodiment of gambling, intoxication, lust, violence, greed, every vice you can imagine, standing there in royal clothes, beating righteousness into the ground. Parikshit raised his sword to end evil forever. One strike, that's all it would take. But Kali, clever, cunning Kali, did the one thing that would save him. He surrendered, fell at the king's feet. And Parikshit, being righteous, couldn't kill someone who had surrendered. You live, the king said, but you may only dwell in 5 places. He pointed his sword. Where people gamble, where they drink to excess, where they engage in illicit relations, where they kill needlessly. He paused. And in gold. Think about that list. Look at the world today. Kali is doing just fine. Years of peace followed.
And then came that one day, the day that would change everything. Parikshit was out hunting, got separated from his entourage, lost in the forest, desperately thirsty. The sun was brutal, his throat was burning. He stumbled into a small hermitage where a sage named Shamika sat in meditation. Water, Parikshit gasped. Please, just water. Nothing. The sage sat like stone. Parikshit waited, called again. Still nothing. Now here's the thing. Shamika wasn't ignoring him. The sage's consciousness was completely merged with the divine. He wasn't in this world anymore. He literally couldn't hear. But Parikshit didn't know that. All he saw was a man ignoring the emperor of the world. Thirst made him dizzy. His royal pride started to sting. How dare he? And in one moment, one thoughtless moment, Parikshit picked up a dead snake with his bow and draped it around the sage's neck. Then he left. Such a small act, a momentary lapse, wounded pride, dehydration, but it would cost him everything. Because the sage had a son, Shringi, a young boy with incredible spiritual power. When he heard what the king had done to his father, his eyes blazed like fire, and he cursed. 7 days from now, the serpent king Takshaka will bite that arrogant king, and he will die. When Shamika finally opened his eyes and learned what his son had done, he wept. My child, for such a small offense you've given a death sentence. But curses, once spoken by those with spiritual power, cannot be reversed. The message was sent to the palace. The emperor of the world had 7 days to live. Back in his palace, Parikshit was already drowning in remorse. What had he done? A momentary anger, a dead snake on a meditating sage. How far he had fallen. When the messenger arrived with news of the curse, everyone expected rage, expected the king to send armies, to build fortresses, to hunt down the boy who cursed him. Instead, something extraordinary happened. Parikshit stood silent for a long moment, and then tears started streaming down his face. Not tears of fear, tears of gratitude. This curse, he said, his voice shaking with emotion, is the greatest blessing of my life. Everyone stared. Had the king gone mad? But Parikshit understood something most people never grasp. We all have a death sentence. Every single one of us. We're all going to die. The only difference? Parikshit knew his date, and that gave him something priceless. Absolute clarity about what truly mattered. No more distractions, no more someday, no more pretending he had forever. 7 days. What would you do with 7 days? Parikshit didn't waste a second. He called his son, handed him the crown. He said, "The kingdom is yours. Rule with righteousness." Then he walked out of the palace. No servants, no guards, no royal robes. He went to the sacred Ganga river, sat down on a simple grass mat, and announced, "I will spend my last 7 days discovering the ultimate truth." Word spread like lightning. A king at the height of his power, choosing consciousness over comfort. Saints and sages started converging from every corner of earth. Even celestial beings came. The riverbank became an assembly of the greatest spiritual minds in existence, all gathering to witness, could a man really attain liberation in 7 days? Then, as if summoned by the purity of Parikshit's intention, a remarkable figure appeared. Shuka. He looked 16 years old, smooth skin, youthful body, but his eyes carried eternity. When Shuka walked through the assembly, past sages who had meditated for thousands of years, past celestial beings, past masters of every spiritual path, something unprecedented happened. They all stood up, every single one. The greatest spiritual authorities in existence rose in reverence for a 16-year-old boy, because they could see what he was, not just enlightened, born enlightened. Shuka had been liberated since birth. He had never been bound. Parikshit bowed deeply. "Great soul," he said, "I have 7 days. What should a dying person do? The question hung in the air. Shuka smiled, not a condescending smile, a knowing one. Hear the glories of the Lord, he said simply. Listen with every atom of your being. For in such listening, in such complete presence, lies the power to attain in 7 days what usually takes many lifetimes. Parikshit nodded. He was ready. 7 days, one purpose, total focus. And legend has it that Sri Shuka revealed the Srimad Bhagavatam, that sacred collection of stories and spiritual techniques through which Parikshit attained liberation. Think about that. A man who commanded armies, who banished evil itself, who ruled the entire world. He took all that willpower, all that warrior focus and turned it inward, not to escape death, to conquer it. And conquer it, he did. Because liberation isn't about your body surviving. It's about your consciousness recognizing it was never confined to the body in the first place. On the 7th day, as a serpent Takshaka's poison coursed through his veins, Parikshit's heart stopped beating. But Parikshit didn't die, because there was no Parikshit left to die. Only pure consciousness, only the divine itself. He conquered death not by avoiding it, but by realizing what death actually is, the end of a body, not the end of awareness. That was Parikshit's story. But here's what it means to you now. Your calendar says you have decades ahead, so you treat time like it's infinite. Like there's always tomorrow to focus. Always next year to get serious. Sound familiar? Parikshit's gift was not the curse itself, but the clarity it created. Dr. B.J. Miller, a palliative care physician at UCSF who works with dying patients, noticed something remarkable. The closer people get to death, the more present they become. The trivial falls away. What remains is startlingly simple. Love, connection, meaning. That's not mystical. That's what happens when your brain realizes time is limited. But you and I, we have not received a 7-day death sentence. We have not ignited ourselves totally in a spiritual fire. But we can practice the essence of his realization through 3 progressive steps. Step 1. Master your attention. Parikshit's secret weapon wasn't spiritual knowledge. It was determination, the ability to focus completely on one thing. Cal Newport, computer science professor at Georgetown and author of Deep Work, studied the world's highest performers. His finding? The ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare. At exactly the same time, it is becoming increasingly valuable. Most people can't focus on one thing for even a few minutes without checking their phone. But those who achieve extraordinary things, they practice what Newport calls deep work, long periods of distraction-free concentration. That's what Parikshit did for 7 days straight. Your practice? Once a day, give one thing your complete attention for 25 minutes. Not multitasking, one thing. Complete presence. Could be work, a conversation, reading, cooking, doesn't matter. What matters is the quality of attention you bring. When your mind wanders, and it will, don't judge. Just notice. Bring it back. That's the muscle Parikshit used, and it gets stronger every time you practice. Do this for 2 weeks. Build the foundation. Then you're ready for step 2. Step 2. Turn attention inward. Once you can control your attention externally, the real magic begins. Turning that attention inward. Let me be clear. Parikshit's body died. The snake killed him. But he conquered death by understanding what death actually is. Your body is the vehicle. Consciousness is the driver. When the vehicle breaks down, the driver doesn't cease to exist. The driver just steps out. Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor, a Harvard-trained brain scientist, had a stroke that shut down her left hemisphere, the part creating your sense of individual self. In her famous TED Talk, she described what happened. I could no longer define the boundaries of my body. I felt enormous and expansive. I was at one with all the energy. It was beautiful. When her ego mind went offline, what remained wasn't nothing. What remained was pure awareness. That's what Parikshit discovered, not through a stroke, but through focused meditation. Your practice? Once a day. Spend just 5 minutes being aware that you're aware. Sit quietly. Notice, I'm aware of my breath. Then notice, I'm aware that I'm aware of my breath. That's second level.
That's you recognizing the consciousness behind your thoughts. That's you recognizing the driver, not just the car. Do that daily and something shifts. You identify less with your story, your circumstances. You start recognizing, I am the awareness experiencing all of this.
And when you recognize that, death loses its sting. Practice this for a month. Then you're ready for step 3.
Step 3. Experience timelessness. For 7 days, Parikshit sat absorbed in what the texts call samadhi, complete present moment awareness. Dr. Andrew Newberg, neuroscientist at Thomas Jefferson University, scanned the brains of meditating monks. He found that during deep meditation, the parietal lobe, the brain region that orients you in space and time, showed decreased activity. His interpretation? You lose the sense of self as separate. You feel connected to everything. You experience yourself as timeless. That's what Parikshit practiced for 7 days. You can start today. Your practice? Every morning, sit for 10 minutes in complete stillness. Watch your breath. Watch thoughts come and go. Don't engage. Don't push away. Just observe. Like sitting by a river, watching water flow past. Do that daily and you start recognizing you're not your thoughts. You are the awareness watching thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the space where emotions arise. You are not your story. You are the consciousness experiencing the story. And when you touch that, even for a moment, you conquer time. Because time exists in stories, in past and future. But consciousness only exists now. And now never ends. That's what Parikshit realized. Time was limited, but the now was infinite.
So here we are, back where we started. King Parikshit, 7 days, one impossible realization. But you know what stays with me most? That moment when he heard the curse and said, "This is the greatest blessing of my life." Most people, faced with mortality, collapse in fear. Parikshit faced it and woke up. You have something he didn't have, time. But time is meaningless without presence. And presence is what these 3 steps cultivate. Subscribe, not for more content, but for more consciousness. And if you want to go deeper into these timeless stories, check out Bhagavatam Light, Riding the Waves of Timeless Wisdom, Volume 1. Links in the description. But before you click anything, take 3 breaths. Just 3. Feel the air enter. Feel it leave. That's your practice beginning. That's your day 1. Your timer starts now. And somewhere Kali is laughing because he thinks you won't even make it 7 minutes. Prove him wrong.